I'm glad you could join us. Today we're going to talk about the top 5 essential tools for doing sheet metal work when you're doing automotive restoration. Plus, at the very end of the video, I'm also going to give you a bonus tip, so make sure you stick around for that. I'm Mike R., and this is My Car Shop.
Working out of a 100-year-old refurbished barn, bringing 35 years of experience to projects considered beyond repair. Vision, creativity, and problem solving are essential tools in this place. Watch as we transform junk into polished metal miracles. This is My Car's Shop.
So I've been thinking about things that could be really beneficial to you if you want to get into sheet metal work and fabricating. And so I kind of gathered up what I think are the top 5 tools. If you've been around the shop here for a while and you've seen the 145 episodes that we have on the channel, you see that we do have a lot of tools that we use and equipment that we use. But if I was to lose everything, what are the tools that I would feel are the most important to have for doing sheet metal work? I want to clarify that I'm separating that from tools for doing mechanical work because that's a different thing. So there's some crossover, things like drill motors and things like that, but I'm focused specifically here on the tools for doing sheet metal work. So let's get into that. And these are in no particular order. They're rather random. So I'm going to give you 5 items, but they're random. So the first thing I would say is hammers, body hammers, and dollies, and you can see I've got a whole variety of those here. There's 4 or 5 different ones, and I've got a bunch more in the drawer. But out of all the ones that I have one that is my favorite, and it's this one right here. I really like the reach on this hammer, and this is my favorite dolly. And if you watch the episodes, you'll see these are the 2 tools that I use most when I'm doing hammer and dolly work. I also have a little picked hammer that I made that I use, but those are very essential. And don't confuse your bodywork hammers, your sheet metal hammers, with your big hammers that you use for beating the crap out of stuff. These are hammers that you want to keep these surfaces very polished and clean and smooth. If you can see that one. I'm kind of embarrassed to show you the other side because it's got a bunch of, it's not dense, that's just like undercoating. I haven't cleaned it lately, but I try to keep those polished. So that's one essential tool that I would say. Another one would be a pair of cuts, and I have 4 different ones. I can only find 3 of them because I'm always switching between projects. But snips, you have your tin snips, and there's 3 varieties of those. I'll explain real quick. And then there's your traditional old school snips, and I have all of those. The green one is your right-handed snip, which means that it kind of tends to curl the metal to the left. There's a red one that's just like this that curls the metal. Sorry, I did that backwards. The right-handed snips curl the metal to the right, the red ones curl it to the left, and the yellow-handled ones. Now, if you know anything about Gene Winfield, he hates these and would just assume you threw them away because these are straight cuts. And so I find these very beneficial for just making small little nips and cutting off corners. So I use those, but if I had to pick one of these 4, I would pick probably my right-hand one. That's the one I use the most. Another tool that I think is very essential that goes along with another tool we'll show you in a minute is a good set of clamps. These are welding clamps of a couple of different sizes. I've got a ton of different types of clamps, but I would say a couple of these would be very essential if you're going to do metal fabricating. And if you've watched the Stitches Challenger project, you'll see that we use tons and tons of clamps to hold things together. Those are very important for doing metal work. Another tool that I've got a couple of here, angle grinders, and I've got a real cheap one that I picked up at it's a Clark that I think I picked up at the auto parts for 20 bucks about 20 years ago. And then I've got it's actually my son's, but a nice DeWalt as well. And these angle grinders are very, very helpful because you can put a cutoff wheel on them. You can put, this is too big, this is for a bigger grinder, but you can put small grinding discs on them. You can put grinding wheels on them. And I do like to buy the grinding discs and the cutoff wheels in packs of 5. You can get those like our local Tractor Supply. They're really inexpensive to get them this way. So those are tools. And then the other thing that I also like on my angle grinder, and this one's dedicated exclusively to it, is a wire cup for just cleaning up metal. If you're going to have that tool, safety first. Obviously, you need a set of these to protect your hearing and a good set of safety goggles. I think that's 4 tools. We have one more, and then I'm going to give you the big bonus at the end here, so hang on. So the last tool that I'm going to share with you before I give you that bonus tip is get yourself a good wire welder. Here I have my wire welder and my TIG welder, but if I was to choose between the two of these, I would choose this MIG welder every time. It's just much more versatile, and the TIG welder is great. You've seen me use it on the channel. I love using it. It has a very specific application, but for universality, is that a word? Universality? For universalness, for universalism, anyway, for universal application, by and large, this wire welder is the best. This is just I think it's an old SP 101, maybe? I'm not sure. The SP 100. Lincoln, I've had this for 30 years, a little over 30 years. It's been a great unit. I have the gas setup on it. I use about 23 to 25 thousandths wire on it most of the time. It will weld everything I need to do for sheet metal work, and with heavier gauge wire, it will actually do up to 3/16 if you V-channel it and preheat it a little bit. So get yourself a good wire welder. Don't cheap out and go with the flux core. That's where I started. For many years I had that, and I restored a couple of cars using flux core wire. You can do it, but spend a couple $100 extra and get yourself the gas attachment and the gas tank. I bought the big one. You don't have to buy this big, but I go through so much wire and gas. I just prefer to get the big one and be done with it because I have to drive almost 30 miles to get my gas. Another thing that I'll mention with this is make sure you've got a good set of welding gloves. I've got heavier ones than this for a lot of the work. I got these for TIG welding, but I do like them for MIG welding as well. These just came from Harbor Freight. They're just cheap, soft leather. Get yourself welding helmets. This is the one I got 30 years ago. If you've watched the channel, I got a lot of comments on me doing the old head flip. I've been doing that so long, but I did break down and buy a nice Eastwood auto darkening here a couple months ago, and I'm finally starting to get the hang of it. I still gravitate back to my old one, but a good wire welder is essential. So let's talk about that final thing that's so important when it comes to sheet metal fabrication and automotive restoration. The most important thing when it comes to automotive restoration and metal work are the 3 things that we talk about in the beginning of the show: vision, creativity, and problem solving. But of those, vision is the best thing. My wife and I were talking about the Forsyth Duster last night, actually, which just came home, so you've probably seen the episode on that, and we were going over it. So having a vision for taking a rusted out piece of garbage, something that others would deem beyond repair, like our Stitches Challenger, and if you haven't seen those episodes, like I said, be sure to check that out, because we've taken something that is far beyond what most people would touch, and we're turning it back into being a really nice car. A lot of hand fabricating on that. But having the vision, being able to see what you want, and then being able to formulate that into a plan, what you're going to make, what you're going to buy. I'm all about making stuff, and having that vision, and just being plain old too stupid to believe that it can't be done no matter what somebody else says. So that's the most important one. That's your bonus tip. Have a vision and follow through on that vision, and don't listen to the naysayers. All right, thanks for joining us here. If you're working on a project, I would love to see what you're working on. So join us over on Facebook /MyCarShop. Pinned to the top of the page is a post called Show Us Your Junk. And guys and gals are posting pictures over there of the stuff they're working on, and I'm really enjoying what I'm seeing. I'm enjoying seeing the updates, hearing the challenges. We've also got a new forum if you're interested in metalwork and fabricating. That's just getting started, and we're not talking about the projects here and what's going on, but just in general about fabrication and metalwork. Also, we are on Instagram /MyCarShop, and I really appreciate you being here. A lot more stuff coming. We got episodes coming on the Forsyth Duster. I think we're going to get back on the 74 Swinger soon, and hopefully we're going to be on the GTS as well as this car here. So if I can find enough hours in the day to get after it, we're going to do it. Rock on, guys.